Good morning, everybody. And yes, we're going to be talking about mindfulness in politics. But I thought, first of all, we could do a little bit of mindfulness of politics. So we're going to do a little mindfulness practice together. This will be very brief. It's an invitation, so join if you like. Very brief and very experimental. So first, closing your eyes, if that is supportive to you, to kind of tune the instrument of perception, maybe taking an upright and relaxed posture, feeling into the feet on the floor, perhaps, the bum on the chair, the feeling of your clothes. And as much as is possible to you, just maybe feeling the body, what it's like to be sitting here, and what kind of emotions might be around. This is just tuning the instrument and getting a baseline reading. What is it like to be you right now? And now I'm going to drop a few words in, and we're going to see whether that triggers any emotions, thoughts, feelings. I'm just going to be sensitive to that as much as is possible. Are you ready? Mindfulness of the word politics. Politicians. President. Prime Minister or Chancellor. Debate, disagreement. Noticing if you have any kind of associations or feelings, thoughts that arise. And when you're ready, opening your eyes if they've been closed. And coming back to the room. And if you're in here, if you're in the room in person, I'd like to invite you now to turn to the person next to you, perhaps someone you have spoken to least. And just, I want you to have a minute each just to share share your answer to the question, when you think about politicians and political debate, what emotions or thoughts come to mind? Okay. And we have, for those online, we have a Menti, which is going to be live now. Okay, time to swap over if you haven't done so already. Second person speaking, if you're taking turns. Are we able to share the Menti? Thank you, everyone. Get a feeling if you're not familiar with this already, you'll be getting used to it by the end of the day. If only that worked in the British Parliament. So let's have a little bit of a popcorn. Has anyone got any words they can share with me? Emotions, thoughts? Irritated. Sadness. Hope. Wow, some hope. Old school dynamics. Anger. Admiration and hope, I heard, is there as well. So a mixture of negative emotions there, a sense of frustration, anger, disappointment, but also I think one of the big surprises that I got when I started working with politicians as people back in 2014 is that they were people, you know. And they're humans too, and the majority that I've worked with anyway, and this might be a self-selected group who turn up to mindfulness classes, they really are in it for the right reasons, and it's a complex thing, but they go into it at least for the right reasons, and perhaps the kind of the system and the culture walks things over time. But yeah, we've heard about sustainability crises and other forms of challenge we face. Some experts talk about a crisis in democracy, that our institutions are in many ways out of date, and in some countries the cultures are really counterproductive to the kind of sense-making and the holding of complexity that we need at this time of challenge. In many countries, polarisation is increasing and trust is nosediving. So trust in the UK, for instance, is at an all-time low. Just to get a sense, I mean, one of the reasons of that, for that, perhaps, is the way in which our Parliament carries on. Has anyone seen clips of the British Parliament? You get there's a lot of people. I think it went viral during Brexit because of the kind of extreme nature of it. We're going to do our best impression of the British Parliament now. So over here we have the peanut butter party, and over here we have the jam party, or jelly for the North Americans. And I'm going to say a phrase, and if the peanut butter party agree with it, I want you to be like, here, here, like, yeah, yeah, as loud as you can. And over here, I want you to disagree with it. Is that okay? And in the British Parliament, if you disagree with it, it needs to be like shame or boo or just which is a common. I kid you not. I kid you not. And I will try and bring you to order in a moment, and then we'll get on with the presentation. Okay. So, are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Peanut butter is better than jam. Order! 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 Thank you. I need to tell that to the Speaker of the House of Commons, that he should be instituting that. Okay. So after that fun, I need to be quite quick with my presentation. But so yes, believe it or not, despite our reputation as being a very noisy and counterproductive in some ways culture, some politicians, and in fact it's now 20% of MPs who have been in Parliament over the last 10 years, have come together for something very different. So sitting in silence together, developing self-awareness, sharing aspects of their common humanity. And they've been doing this in 6 to 8 week courses, mindfulness courses. Now, 300 MPs and members of the House of Lords have been through this training, and nearly 800 of their staff. So this is a big surprise to most people, and many people, to be fair, for good reason, say, well, I haven't seen the impact of this on TV. But then, you know, the clips that you get on social media or whatever are not always what goes on behind the scenes. And actually, these classes where they are learning intentionally to understand the mechanisms of the mind, how the mind and the heart function. Like I say, sharing their experiences and connecting at the level of common humanity has been a profound benefit to some of them. And they've also mentioned how this has been a profound benefit to their relationships in and outside of the British Parliament. Some have gone on to say something even more encouraging. which this practice of self-regulation, of greater awareness, sensitivity, is changing the culture amongst those, to be fair, still small group that are really dedicated to this practice. And we have, it's now been 10 years this has been going on, and we've collected the benefits that have been reported into this document here. So I'll skip this. This is about our kind of policy stuff. So you can go to our website, the Mindfulness Initiative.org, to get all of the policy documents we've created over the years. So this is looking at how mindfulness and compassion training can be applied in health, education, criminal justice, the workplace, etc. And more recently, how it can address sustainability and the climate crisis. My co-authors, Christine Wamsler and Rosie Bell, are in the audience. But over time, the policy work that we've done with politicians led to them also being interested in the application of mindfulness, not just out there, but in here, in Parliament itself. Member of the House of Lords, Ruth Lister, being one of the first to really put her finger on this. My co-author for this report, Ruth Ormston, who led on the writing of it, used research by a Swedish researcher, Otto Simonsson, where he interviewed over 20 politicians in depth and combined that with anecdotes that we'd heard over the years about the impact of training. And so I'll take you very briefly through these three areas of personal, interpersonal, and cultural benefit. So the first one, the individual benefits we looked at, or we saw coming out of these interviews, was around performance. So here, as much as possible, I'll put this into the words of politicians themselves. I've got a number of quotes for you on slides. Here, Tracy Crouch, former minister, says, "Mindfulness makes meetings more efficient." Instead of me saying, I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand that, i.e. I wasn't listening, I'm fully focused. The meeting can be done in 20 minutes, whereas it would have taken 30 or 40. Brave of her to say that, I think. She's also said that mindfulness has helped her public speaking. In fact, before she was a minister and she was on the front bench where you can see your feet, she was a backbencher. She used to take her shoes off so she could really just feel anchored and feel the ground beneath her to give her a sense of confidence and presence that is represented in the IDGs. The next personal benefit we heard a lot about was resilience. This is where mindfulness is often associated most commonly. Here, Baroness Elizabeth Andrews saying, mindfulness isn't some rather soppy option. It's a very serious opportunity to take stock and to develop resilience and emotional understanding. Next category, relationships with others. And here we have a halo effect. Lord Stone, who used to run Marks & Spencer's, one of our biggest retail companies in the UK, he says that it isn't just those that have been on this course. There's a different tone of conversation that then spreads to other people who come and sort of join that group. So a kind of halo or ripple effect. And what underpins some of this sort of changes to relationships? The most common thing we hear, I think, is a phrase from mindfulness courses, which is, I've learned how to respond creatively rather than react blindly. How many political careers have ended because of an impulsive word or action? So Chris here saying, yeah, that difference, that half-second difference made a huge impact for him. We would all like our politicians, the research says, to be better at listening. And indeed, they report that these trainings help them to do so, help them to listen to the huge amounts of information that comes at them all day long, but also to go from that hot political debate to meeting constituents on a Friday at the end of their week and listening to difficult stories, traumatic stories in some cases, and to be really present and compassionate with them. That's what Scott mentions here. He's more centered and able to take on board their concerns and deal with them. Navigating disagreement is a really common theme. And part of this, I think, is what the Inner Development Goals call perspective skills, empathy, and humility. Here, a deputy speaker of the House of Lords saying, mindfulness helps me to step back and to see the other point of view. And so there's that self-regulation benefit that helps to navigate disagreement, but particularly that kind of seeing the bigger picture and being able to take on other views. And finally, admittedly, this isn't everyone putting their finger on this yet, and what exactly a good parliamentary culture looks like is controversial. But there are some things, I think, which we would all agree would be helpful. And here, Tim Lawton, who's a former minister and co-chair of the all-party group on mindfulness that I've helped to clerk, he says, when you're debating in the House of Commons and there's someone from the mindfulness class, there's a greater level of respect. The level of debate actually improves. It's noticeable. And I mentioned polarisation. This is obviously a hot topic. And this goes to something quite profound here. And it's really interesting that politicians are starting to pick up on this. Mindfulness is more important than ever when politics is becoming increasingly polarised. Why? Because the more that we've got a little gap between people's identities, on the one hand, and their beliefs and ideas or thoughts on the other, then there's a potential for greater respect and thoughtfulness. Now, this is one of these sort of insights from mindfulness classes. I am not identical to my thoughts, and thoughts are not facts. I can believe something and hold it on the workbench of the mind, and it isn't, and therefore someone can sort of attack my idea, but they're not attacking me. If there's a bit of distance there, it's called metacognitive awareness or metacognition. And so the final thing I wanted to mention, and this is really important, obviously, in the context of sustainability, is about values orientation in a compass. And here, Deputy Leader of the Liberal Democrats in the House of Lords saying, mindfulness encourages you to reflect and think about others, not just in terms of other beings, but in terms of the earth, which we are part of. And so this sense of, more than human world, and what pressure these people are under, it's just incredible. It's so easy to lose your sense of the rudder or the compass, the reason you came into politics. Finally, because I'm over time, in a phrase, mindfulness, it seems, helps you to disagree better. Because disagreement's important. And we can train to get better at that. So these people, in a representative democracy, these people, a very small group, but ultimately their cognitive, emotional, and relational capacities are going to be so important to how our societies, our civilization steers through these next decades. We have very little sympathy for them. They have very low mental health, on average, worse than average, more are struggling than not. And we actually tend to think they're overpaid and have little sympathy when we offer them support. So I say, if I leave you with anything, it's that they're humans too, that these capacities that can be trained are so important to us, and so we need to pipe up, basically, and demand this of them so that they have the license to do it, to look after themselves and to develop themselves. With that, thank you very much, and have a lovely week. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Actually, I think you did a great job on this order. I'm going to take you up on that instead of using this. We are colleagues. We haven't had any disagreements yet, so you seem to be doing a good job on actually disagreeing better. Is there anything that you'd like to leave our audience with, like a first step on how to actually practice that disagreeing better?
Yeah, I mean, the noticing that you're getting sort of like hot and bothered is often a sign that there's a kind of resistance to something, and it's so difficult, but a really good practice to take a few deep breaths before we jump in. And sometimes it takes me 2 or 3 days of deep breaths to realize, actually, yeah, I was reactive there. Like there's something that I didn't really want to hear in that.
And then maybe it's better to take
And I'm getting better over time, but it's still a practice. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jamie Bristow.